This is not only our first comment, but also the first one I'm gonna disagree with. I could sort of understand the concern, but I personally don't have an issue with this. It makes sense to keep the bundle's mechanics consistent between all items, and I also can't say I ever have a ton of tools filling my inventory. I'm sure there's some maniac out there that likes to carry 23 shovels with them, but I feel like most of the time I just carry the tools I plan on using, and the more niche stuff like flint and steel and brushes go in my ender chest. I think the way the bundle works with non-stackable items right now is perfectly reasonable. On to the Garden Awakens. I seem to cover most of the stuff people were commenting on for myself, but there was one comment I wanted to include. Abstract Calamity says, I really think the Pale Garden should be able to generate without a Dark Oak Forest attached to it. Also add white pumpkins, please Mojang, I'm begging you. First off, another white pumpkin fan, love to see it. But the reason I included this was because of the first bit. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about this one. I kind of like how Pale Gardens generate with Roof Forest as a sort of spooky contrast. At the same time though, I wouldn't hate Pale Gardens generating on their own. I would say this isn't a nitpick for me, but if it was changed so that Pale Gardens generate by themselves, I also wouldn't complain. Whatever they have to do to make the biome bigger, I guess. And you know what, since this drop segment was so short, let's go ahead and throw in one that doesn't really tie into any specific drop. KNE Pepper 7665 says, I wish they would be more transparent about what they're doing with experiments. I, maybe controversially, think the villager trade rebalance would be fun with giving different biome librarians different books. It would add more of an incentive to travel the world and set up multiple bases to more easily get the villagers you want. They also want those minecart experiments, which I don't particularly care about, but I know others want. I'm not even saying that they need to add these immediately, but giving us a little more information on if/when these features will be added would be nice. Alongside drops, Mojang has added a lot of experimental features. We talked about the villager changes a long time ago now, where librarian trades would be based on the biome and a few other things. The minecart changes were also something that got people very excited, where we could let minecarts build up speed and launch things. Unfortunately, like this comment says, Mojang has been very unclear on when and if these features are going to be added. I made my villager rebalance video in 2023, and since then, the most that came from it were the new explorer maps given to cartographers in the Spring to Life drop. The minecart changes, which have gotten me really excited, have been extremely quiet, and that makes me pretty sad. I get that there's a lot to consider with the minecart stuff because it would affect a lot of contraptions, but I hope they get on to adding it sometime soon. Oh wait a minute, it seems I missed a line at the bottom of this comment. Also, I love sewing discourse, so my obligatory hot take is that phantoms are actually good and I love them. Onto the Spring to Life drop, we once again only got one comment from Alonso Chiampi who says, I personally would love to see hot and cold variants for sheeps. Now this comment could mean one or two things. They could be asking for sheep reskins like the cow, pig, and chicken got, in which case I would agree. It does feel a bit sad to leave the sheep out even though it's one of the classic mobs. Now the sheep's main color does change between hot, cold, and neutral biomes, but that's not nearly as exciting. Now the other thing this comment could be talking about are the removed default sheep colors that were present in the snapshots. Initially, sheep were planned to spawn as blue colored in cold biomes and reddish colors in warm biomes. People were overall not a huge fan of this change, and I personally have to agree with that. It just feels a bit too unrealistic. But as far as I'm aware, there are no creepers in real life, so I don't care about realism. Mario, look out! I didn't say that.